Chapter 11 The Choo Choo Family, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You are more powerful than I imagined you to be, Mia said as she caught up to Kai. He smiled at her and both of them walked to her house. Mia wanted to sleep while Kai was making sure that no one was following her again. So I guess this is goodbye for now, Mia said as they reached her house. Before you go in, there is something you haven't done, Kai said as Mia reached for her doorknob. She turned to look at him as he smiled a little. You told the crowd that you would kiss the winner. I am pretty sure that I won, Kai said as Mia's cheeks flushed. She wanted to say that she had done that to gather a crowd, but looking at his face, something tugged on her insides. She took a deep breath and moved forward. Her face was inches away from his face as she stared into his deep purple eyes. She closed her eyes and touched her lips to his. She could feel electric currents run throughout her body as their lips connected. She then quickly stepped back and said goodbye to him and entered her house in a hurry. Kai stood there for a few seconds before he walked away. I didn't expect her to kiss me so quickly. We have only known each other for a few hours and yet. His thoughts trailed as he reached his house. He didn't enter it and instead went forward and laid on the ground as he stared at the stars all night. In the morning, Mia came to his house to see him standing outside. She was holding a backpack on her shoulder. It was surprising that such a world had such stuff. When Kai saw her, he chuckled slightly. She was wearing flower-patterned white robes to blend in with the crowd and make sure that no one could trace her. But Kai was thinking about something else. The previous Mia would rather be dead than being caught alive in a robe. For some reason, she hated robes with her heart. For her usual outfit, she wore a black tank top with a black leather jacket and black mini shorts. And for some reason, she was addicted to ice creams. You can never find her without a popsicle in her hand. Kai missed that Mia as well as the rest of his harem, but there was no use in thinking about something you can't have. Kai smiled at her and offered her his hand. She reluctantly grabbed it as Kai's warm hand wrapped around her hand. Close your eyes and visualize the place where we are going. Mia did as Kai instructed. Kai used his powers to channel the image to his mind and with that, he teleported them using light steps. They appeared in a dark abandoned alley and Kai could hear the noises of a market being a few meters away. Since it was his first time teleporting such a large distance with such low cultivation, he had to take a deep breath to clear his mind. They stood there for a few minutes as Mia and Kai assessed their surroundings. They then moved to see the market as Kai decided to ask a few questions. How did the slave traders capture you? Kai asked as Mia's expression hardened. As he waited for her answer, he took out the inner court disciple robes he had received and wore them. He then brushed it a little and the blue color darkened and the symbol of the sect vanished. The robes now looked like normal dark blue robes. The slave traders caught me in a forest and tried to *PE me before selling me. But for some reason, they weren't able to do so. When they touched their hands on my body, their hands caught fire. But when they sold me to that bastard, that protection wore off and he was able to touch me. But by then I had increased my cultivation to the 10th stage of the earth spirit realm. That bastard also had the same cultivation as me and he also had some low-level guards with him. They captured me and tied me up to a tree in the forest. But by chance, the sect masters were passing through there and they saved me. And you know the rest. Mia replied as she saw him change the robes but she averted her gaze after she stopped talking. Kai as usual managed to maintain a neutral expression even though his insides were flaming with rage and anger. What were you doing in that forest? Kai asked. Mia hesitated and didn't answer, which made him narrow his eyes. But instead, he said. If you don't want to tell me, then don't. Take your time and if you ever think about telling me, then I will listen. Mia momentarily nodded and asked Kai to follow her. They zigzagged their way through the market, with Kai getting some strange looks. But that was a common thing. Mia led him towards a huge mansion where 2 guards at the 10th stage at the Sky Spirit Realm were keeping watch. We are simply going to enter the mansion and talk to them like normal people. Though after that, I am going to do many things to them. Kai replied as he walked towards the entrance. Mia wanted to call him crazy, but she had seen him do crazy things, so she stayed quiet and followed him. The guards moved to stop them, but they froze in their places and their eyes got clouded. Kai and Mia entered the mansion without any problem as the guards woke up. They didn't remember what they were doing and they got back to their posts. Inside the entrance, Kai and Mia reached the door of the mansion and opened it. "Who are you?" a man asked as Kai and Mia entered the mansion. He had a portly belly and looked like a man in his 40s as he examined Mia and Kai. His gaze remained on Mia for a few minutes before he looked at Kai. "I repeat, who are you and what business do you have with the Choo-Choo family?" the man asked as Kai gave him an evil smile. "We are here to talk with the Choo-Choo family," Kai said as the doors closed behind him and an unbearable pressure covered the entire place. Chapter 12 Exterminating the Choo-Choo Family, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The man coughed up blood as Mia stared at Kai. She wasn't feeling any pressure on her body, but she could sense Kai's pressure, either the surroundings. She couldn't explain how he was doing that, but she could only stare at him. Who is he and why is he helping me? She wondered why Kai was helping her even though they had only known each other for a day. The rest of the Choo-Choo family gathered at one place and Kai got a good look at the ancestor. He was also struggling because of his aura as he stared at Kai with terror. Why are attacking my family without saying anything? At least explain that much." The man screamed as the pressure suddenly vanished. "I didn't have any problem with you. In fact, I didn't even know you existed. But then, Mia here told me about her experience with your family," Kai said as he pointed at Mia. "You. How is it possible that your face has no scars?" "I carved them myself." A fat young child spoke in astonishment, but he soon covered his mouth with a frightened squeal. "Oh, you foolish brat. Why did I let him do these things and then let him off with such a non-existent punishment?" The head of the Choo-Choo family cursed himself as he waited in enticement for Kai to attack them again. But nothing happened. Truth be told, he himself had thought that Mia was too beautiful. In fact, he wanted her as a concubine, but due to his age, he wasn't able to do so. So as the next better option, he had wanted her to become a concubine to his son. However, Mia had always rejected his son. He was angry because of this and he, himself, had given that dagger to his son so that he could make her his own. Unfortunately, the Blue Moon sect had managed to save this girl and they had taken her away to their sect. And because his own son was at fault, he wasn't able to do anything to get Mia back. "You little bitch. You came back here to get revenge, didn't you? And let me guess, you sold your body to this fake bastard to get your revenge." "I will." The wife of the Choo-Choo family's head was cursing at Mia when she suddenly stopped mid-sentence. Kai glared at her like a god delivering justice and moved at an unexpected pace and moved towards the wife. The next second, he came into focus and he was holding a tongue in his hand. Suddenly, the wife screamed at the top of her lungs as blood started to drip from her mouth. She fell on the ground with her hands wrapped around her mouth. The rest of the family stared at Kai in horror as they looked at the family head's wife with dread. "Who knows, they might be next. Kneel down to her," Kai said as he pointed at Mia. The Choo-Choo family was reluctant to move, but Kai's aura bore down on them again. One by one, they touched the floor with their knees and they knelt to Mia. The family head and the ancestor were still standing, but when Kai increased the pressure, they too fell down to their knees. They stared at Mia for a moment before the ancestor and family head thought about taking one last chance to save themselves. They somehow stood up again and took out their swords and moved towards Mia before anyone could say anything. But as soon as they reached in front of Mia, blood started to pour out from their orifices. They coughed a lot of blood and fell down as Kai laughed. You seriously thought that you could attack her? It was quite the entertainment to watch you get fake hope when you stood up. Too bad that I had deliberately decreased the pressure over you too. Kai laughed as the ancestor and family head clutched at their throats and gasped as they couldn't breathe. Mia, remember, revenge is a drug. Kai said as he took out a sword and handed it to Mia. But as long as you keep yourself under control, it's the most dangerous weapon besides hate. Mia replied as she firmly grabbed the sword and pierced the heart of the family head. The light left his eyes as his body slumped down. Mia quickly removed the sword and pierced the ancestor's heart and killed him. Both of them had died brutally as their bodies were limp and the Choo-Choo family howled. Kai stepped towards them and took the young master's chin. The young master screamed as black tendrils traveled from Kai's hands and spread around his body. The young master's body started sizzling as he was burned by the tendrils. After he was dead, Kai threw his body on the floor and killed the rest of the members with a snap of his fingers. Was that the first time you killed someone? Kai asked as the dead bodies vanished into thin air. Mia's hands were trembling a little as she nodded. Kai moved forward and clasped her hands. The second time is always easier than the first one. He didn't console her or anything but just told her the truth. She took a deep breath and her body calmed down a little. Her trembling hands returned to normal after a few minutes as she smiled weakly. Can we go to the sect tomorrow? Mia asked as Kai nodded. After all, he couldn't teleport them even if he wanted to. His light steps consumed a lot of spiritual energy and he would need some time to restore that energy. As they gazed outside, they saw the sun vanishing and night was settling in. We can sleep here for the night and go to the sect tomorrow. Kai offered as Mia nodded. She then excused herself and went to the nearest room to sleep. Kai watched her go with a smile as he sat down and started cultivating. But little did he know that the day was yet to end. Chapter 13 Cultivate with Me, R.18, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Author's note. This is just the beginning of an R.18 chapter. The real stuff will begin from the next chapter. In other words, you can consider this as a warmed-up chapter. It was midnight. After all, Kai had spent many nights staring at the sky that he could easily tell the time by looking at the position of the moon and stars. What are you doing staying awake at midnight? Kai heard Mia's voice as she came out of the room while sniffling yawn. You didn't sleep? He asked her with a smile as she shook her head. I just woke up. I thought I would come and check up on you. Who could have guessed that you would be awake and staring at the moon like that? Mia said as she sat beside him. They sat like that in silence before Kai decided to ask her a question. Mia, this might be a weird question but do you have any strange symbol on your body? Kai suddenly asked as Mia's eyes widened. She was so startled as she suddenly closed her arms around her breasts. Kai laughed at her cute gesture as her cheeks went red. How did you know that? Mia asked but Kai didn't reply. The mark on her body was a harem mark that was used by the harem overlords to mark members of their harems. Kai's symbol was the coolest symbol ever invented. Check the paragraph comment for the symbol. Though, out loud he said. You don't remember anything about your past. Kai said sharply. Since you already figured this out, I might as well tell you the whole story. I suddenly woke up in the forest with no memories except my name. After I joined the sect, I searched for missing daughters and stuff and also looked at various clans. I couldn't find anything. It was like I appeared out of thin air. Mia sighed and explained to him. Do you mind if I take a look at your mind? Someone might have sealed your memories. Kai asked as Mia frowned. She then closed her eyes and let him touch her forehead. Kai gently pressed his hand on Mia's forehead and silently prayed. Please don't be a complex memory seal, please don't be a complex memory seal. He saw Mia's mind and let out a sigh of relief. Your mind is blocked by a seal known as the luck-consuming memory seal. And there is good news that I can remove it. Though, I need to gather some ingredients for it. Kai told Mia, who looked at his confusion and happiness. But why is it named as a luck-consuming seal? Mia asked curiously. It's a seal that gives you large amounts of bad luck and then gives you huge good luck once. Since you had so many experiences, I think your bad luck quota was full. However, the weird thing is that the good luck is used. I don't think you had a good luck situation. So now, the seal is just sealing your memories. Kai explained as he looked at her in confusion. Oh, I did have a good luck moment. I met you. Mia whispered as Kai blinked at her. You helped with my scars and helped me obtain my revenge even though it's only been 2 days since we met each other. That is why I was lucky enough to meet you. Mia explained as Kai opened his mouth to speak. But before he could say anything, Mia kissed him. Kai was startled and he fell back as Mia fell on top of him. Cultivate with me. She commanded as Kai stared at her. Are you sure about that? For all you know, I could be a random pervert who helped you to get your body. Kai said slowly as Mia smiled. Are you a wuss? She asked as Kai slowly smiled. He stood up and picked her up. He went to the room and dropped her on the bed. He once again kissed her and his tongue invaded her mouth. Mia intertwined her arms behind his neck as she deepened the kiss. Mia released a low moan and Kai broke off as his hands slowly neared towards her robes. She didn't stop him as he slowly opened her robes and dropped them on the ground. Her cheeks turned red as she felt Kai's gaze on her body which was only covered with a black bra and panty. His hands slowly grabbed her waist as he went forward and nibbled on her neck. Mia moaned as her arms went below Kai's shirt and started exploring his body. Her hands touched warm skin and muscles as she slowly made her way down his chest. Seeing this, Kai pushed her away a little as he removed his shirt off. Her eyes widened as she saw his perfect masculine body. She then grew a little bold as her hands traveled behind her back and unhooked her bra. It came down as Mia's breasts were freed from their restraint. The twin mountains bounced a little as the erect red nipples gleamed in the dimly lit room. He went forward and grabbed her breasts between his hands as he slowly groped them. The nipples twitched between his fingers as Mia's body grew more stimulated. She felt a sudden desire to rub her hole as she looked into Kai's eyes with a pleading expression. Her yellow eyes gleamed with desire as he nodded at her. Kai clearly understood her desires as one of his hands traveled down to her panty and started rubbing her ice hole above the piece of cloth. Mia's mouth released another moan as she felt her body starting to heat up. Her muscles were tensed as moans escaped her mouth. Her moans made Kai smile as he released her right breast from his grip and went forward with his mouth to suck on it. That. Do it gently. Mia exclaimed as her body went limp as he grabbed her right nipple between his teeth and started licking it with his tongue. The area around Kai's finger started to get wet as arousal juices came out of Mia's hole. His hand then went inside her panty as he pushed his finger inside her tight cave. Her flesh gathered around his finger as though it didn't want his finger to explore her cave. But after a few seconds of rubbing her insides, the flesh slowly parted away as liquid flowed down Kai's finger. He felt Mia's body tense up as he built up her orgasm. Her face soon tensed up as she released a high moan and yin chi broke from her hole. Kai's finger was drenched in yin chi as he took it out and gave it a lick while smiling. You made me come so much, Mia said while panting as she saw her yin chi gather around on the sheets. That was just the beginning, Kai said with a devilish grin as he stood up and removed his clothes. Chapter 14 Deflowering the Ice Princess. Once again, our Point 18, chapter preview, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Mia looked at Kai's dragon that was fully hard and was hanging in the air. She gulped in anticipation of what was about to happen. Even though the Blue Moon sect was no longer a dual cultivation sect, there were plenty of books focused on dual cultivation. Mia had randomly picked one of them one day and had read the entire book in an hour. After that, she had picked up many books as she had slowly started playing with herself in her room. She had explored her pussy and had fondled her breasts for pleasure as she had slowly read the erotic scenes mentioned in the books. That was how she had gained her first orgasm, and the feeling was heavenly. But now, looking at man's manhood, Mia felt her heart beat faster. His penis was slightly bigger than her hand, which meant that it was huge. Thinking about it being inside her was enough to stimulate Mia's body. "You can take it slowly if you. But if you want to take it the other way, I don't have any problem." Kai replied with a smile as he sat down, and Mia nodded. She slowly reached forward and touched his rod and felt the hot skin under her palm. She experimentally rubbed it a little as she looked up at Kai's face. He nodded for her to continue as Mia gained some confidence and slowly started rubbing his entire rod. Kai smiled at her efforts even though she was still an amateur at it. "But you don't gain such abilities just in a day." She started massaging her breasts with her another hand as she increased her rubbing speed. The rod under her hand started growing hotter and hotter the more she rubbed it. She could feel the hot yang qi running behind the skin as she firmly jerked his cock. "I am about to come." Kai gave her a warning as Mia slowed down a little to let Kai enjoy his ejaculation to the maximum. She also looked at his penis with eagerness as she was about to see a man ejaculate for the first time. Hot golden white liquid shot out from the top of his dick and some of it flew on her hand. She saw the rest of the liquid fly through the air before it fell down and wetted the bedsheets. She looked at Kai's smiling face as she suddenly wanted to feel his rod inside her. Kai noticed this and pushed her down on the bed as he removed her panty. He first entered her cave with his tongue as electric shocks went through her body. A few drops of stimulating juices flowed from Mia's cave as Kai moved back. He slowly took hold of his dick as he placed it near her entrance. He pushed the head of it inside as Mia's eyes darkened with a feeling of pain and pleasure. She pushed the rest of his rod inside her virgin caves as a little blood stained the sheets. After claiming her status as a maiden once again, Kai let Mia get accustomed to the feeling of his penis inside her. After a few minutes, she slowly nodded at Kai to ask him to start moving. He held her waist with his hands as he slowly slipped in and out of her cave. Mia released a moan as Kai continuously started slipping in and out of her cave. Mia's insides warmed up as she cummed many times, but Kai didn't stop until Mia reached her limit. Mia felt her cave being filled with hit yang qi as Kai released inside her and removed his dick from inside her. Mia panted heavily as she had been pushed to her limit the first time she was cultivating with someone. A mixture of liquids flowed out from the entrance of her cave as she weakly lifted her finger and took a taste of the liquid. It was sweet, and so as she swallowed it and closed her eyes to rest for some time. While resting, she slowly started cultivating the yang energy and her eye flew open as she broke through to the 5th stage of the sky spirit realm. "Was this your first time releasing yang qi?" Mia quickly asked Kai, since if it was his first time, it would mean that he had pure yang energy, which was extremely beneficial for a female. "No, that's just the level of my yang energy," Kai replied as Mia's eyes widened. Kai smiled at her reaction as he sat beside her. Mia stared at his penis, which was still very much hard. She suddenly remembered a position she had read about in a book and suddenly stood up. Kai looked at her with a curious expression as she parted her bottom lips and slowly placed herself over Kai's dragon. She extended a hand forward as Kai gripped it and she slowly started lying herself down. She released moans as she felt his penis hit some good spots along the way. After she had swallowed his entire dragon, she gave her second hand to Kai to hold as she started moving. She used his hands as support as she rode his dick with a pleased expression while Kai enjoyed the warm feeling of her skin around his penis. Mia, however, was getting tired slowly, so she increased her speed to the maximum as her eyes darkened. She cummed on top of his dick as Chi dripped down Kai's penis and Mia was knocked unconscious. Kai smiled a little at this as he carefully removed her from on top of his dick and placed her beside him on the bed. He then quickly changed the sheets and started cultivating as he waited for Mia to gain consciousness. 8 Author's Note: we reached 15,000 words and this novel can now be on the rankings. If you guys give enough power stones to me, then I will release extra chapters. Enjoy. Chapter 15 It Tastes Like Popsicles, R.18, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just to remind you guys, this is the last R.18 chapter for this part. But don't worry, there will be many R.18 chapters in the future. Mia and Kai were both lying on the bed. Mia was now awoke even though her body was still tried. You are still so hard. Mia stared at Kai's little brother in amazement. He just smiled at her and didn't say anything else. Is Chi supposed to be sweet? Mia decided to ask as she remembered the sour-sweet drop mixture of and Chi she had tasted. Only my Chi is like that. Normal Chi is usually bitter and sour, though some people have bland Chi or just plain sour Chi. Kai told her as he remembered the various types of Chi he had gotten to know because of cultivating with so many girls. Can I taste it? Mia asked as Kai looked at her with a smile and nodded. She then went towards his still hard rod slowly and firmly gripped it with her hand. She then slowly bent forward with her tongue out as she gave it a small lick. She felt a small drop of Chi enter her most and it was extremely sweet. She then slowly put the head inside her mouth and started sucking on it. She slid on his dick with her cheeks hollowed as she started slurping on it. She suddenly swallowed Kai's entire rod inside her mouth and started using her tongue to wrestle with Kai's rod. He felt electric waves surge through his body. She felt that he was being pleasured by her skills as she slowly grabbed his ball saw and started fondling them. She did this for a few minutes before she heard what she had wanted to hear. I am going to release my Chi inside your mouth. He warned Mia, who simply nodded. Kai's penis hardened and he shot right into Mia's mouth. Mia gulped. She tried to drink an entire load of Kai's Chi but there was too much of it and some of it started to drip out of her mouth. The golden white liquid stained the sides of her lips as she gulped the rest of it down her throat and had to sit in a lotus pose to cultivate it. She cultivated it in about 10 minutes and she was now at the first stage of the hell spirit realm. For some reason it tasted like popsicles. Mia said and he smiled at her. Kai's Chi was quite special. Anyone who would taste it would experience the taste of the food item they love the most. Since Mia was a fan of popsicles, Kai's Chi tastes like popsicles to her. Never mind that, how can your Chi contain that much energy? Mia had been taught about sensing energy in one's Chi and Kai's Chi dominated everyone else's Chi. What you just saw was approximately 15% of my total energy. Most people could, at the most, absorb about 10% of it. However, you managed to absorb 15% of it. If you continue to cultivate with me, then you will reach the heaven spirit realm in no time flat. He explained the properties of his Chi. The of heaven spirit realm. Mia echoed as she was dumbfounded. Yeah, the heaven spirit realm. After that, you would require much more energy from my Chi. Luckily, you are one of the few people who could increase their absorption rate. Kai, in a way, congratulated Mia. Okay, just stop. Let's just clean ourselves and sleep. Otherwise, I am about to go crazy. Mia said and started walking towards the bath. He just shrugged and followed her. Mia used her entire body to wash Kai's back. Mia used her large breasts to wash Kai's penis and cleaned it. After washing themselves up, Kai and Mia went back to their room and Mia picked up her panties and wore them. She laid down on the bed and immediately passed out. Some habits never change, do they? He said and chuckled. He snapped his fingers and a protection barrier appeared around Mia. Kai quietly left the mansion and went outside. Back at the Choo-Choo family mansion. Guards entered the mansion when they didn't hear any noise from the inside. It was too quiet as the young master always managed to create a ruckus. The guards and maids were about to enter the mansion to check for the Choo-Choo family when Kai appeared in front of them. With just a snap of his fingers, everyone present there entered a trance-like state. If someone asks where the Choo-Choo family is, then tell them that they are on a vacation and would return after some time. He said in a slow voice and disappeared from that spot. Everyone came back to reality and looked at each other with confused faces. As for Kai, he simply roamed the city, enjoying the air. When dawn appeared, he simply went back to the mansion. Kai had never been able to sleep peacefully after a certain incident in the past. No matter how much he tried to sleep, he would always wake up from terrible nightmares. And believe him when he says that the nightmares are terrible because someone with Kai's level of power shouldn't be afraid of nightmares. But that's what everyone assumes, the mind is the weakest spot of anyone. Be it humans, beasts, or immortals. Mia was still asleep when Kai reached the room, so he just watched her sleep. When she woke up, she saw Kai staring at her with sad eyes. She decided to not ask him as she felt that his sadness would only increase if he told her about it. Strange, isn't it? Normally, sadness goes away if you tell someone about it as the other person shares your burden. But in Kai's case, it would only remind him of his loneliness. Mia dressed up in her sect clothes and took hold of Kai's hand, and both of them immediately appeared at the entrance of the Blue Moon sect. He had already erased the memories of everyone who had seen him or Mia, and he had used a concealing formation on himself while wandering around during the night. Both of them entered the sect, unaware of the ruckus that would happen after their return. Author's note: I just released this chapter, but don't think that you will get another free second chapter. Okay, maybe if I am feeling generous then you might get one. But if you guys want 2 or more extra chapters, then vote. Chapter 16: Alchemy. Formations. Weapons. Sex. I am the master of all. Chapter preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thank you for everything. Can I come by later? Mia asked Kai as they reached the inner court. You can come by any time you want. But before that, I am going to reinforce your room with some formations. Mia nodded at Kai's words. Even though she was much stronger than before, she didn't want anyone breaking into her house. Who knows, they might steal her underwear. When Kai reached Mia's house, he simply snapped his fingers and 2 barriers appeared around her entire house. After a minute, the barriers flickered and disappeared. No one can see them. Anyways, the first barrier is a prevention barrier that will throw back anyone unwanted. As for the second barrier, you can think of it as an identifying barrier. Only people who are allowed by you can enter your house, and if someone who you know still tries to do something funny to you, the barrier will send a signal to me. Mia suddenly gasped as soon as Kai finished his explanation. That's such a complex barrier, and you created it in just a second, and with what? A snap of your finger. Is there anything you can't do? She asked. Kai took Mia's words sincerely and thought for a moment. Let's see. Alchemy. Formation. Swords. Weapons. I am the master of all. I can do anything except raising the dead. His voice suddenly sounded sad and pained. But it was gone in the next moment, so Mia thought that she must have imagined it. Well, I can resurrect people who are in the early stages of cultivation. Kai added as Mia nodded. Mia simply thought that nothing can surprise her now. She simply bid her farewell and entered her house. Kai also went back to his house and he started thinking about making some pills. As mentioned before, pills and weapons had ranks. Judging from the condition of the mortal world, the highest rank of pills here would be rank 5. Kai wanted to create 4 peak grade rank 5 pills, but he had to search for their ingredients. The first was the body refining pill which strengthened one's body. The second was the meridian cleansing pill which removed the impurities present in one's meridians. The third one was the soul and spirit refining pill which purified one's soul and spirit. This pill had not been yet created in the mortal world, so Kai didn't know whether he would be able to find its ingredients or not. The last pill was an original pill created by Kai and Rizia, the alchemy goddess. Both he and Rizia had spent 1,000 years locked up in a room and had experimented with thousands of ingredients. The name of the pill was True Mind Pill. This pill would give your mind the strength to protect it against any mental attacks, be it a seal or illusion. This pill had become very popular and many people had started using it against cultivators who were experts in mind techniques. Upon using this pill, their mind would fight against any mental attacks and they would be able to overpower cultivators who used mind techniques. Kai and Rizia had to ban the pills, and since no one other than them could create them, the pills had perished. With this pill, Kai could safely remove the seal that blocked Mia's memory, and he would be able to do that without damaging her mind. The pill required many rank 5 ingredients and all of them were extremely rare. But believe it or not, Kai had these ingredients in his pendant, and not just for one pill. He had enough ingredients to create more than 300 pills. However, before he could think about concocting it, someone knocked at his door. He used his spiritual sense and saw 60 people standing right outside his door. All of them had their cultivation ranging from the 5th stage of the sky spirit realm to the 7th stage of the same realm. Much to Kai's surprise, a person had a 1st stage hell spirit realm cultivation. According to Kiana, the basic requirement for becoming a core disciple was that you should have at least an 8th stage sky spirit realm cultivation. The patriarch himself had 4th stage hell spirit realm cultivation. This meant that this guy was a top-tier genius of the sect. And as for why he was here, let's go back to Mia's end and see what happened after Kai left. Mia finally gave up on pretending to be asleep as the pounding on the door was too much for her. Just like Kai had said, anyone who tried to open her door got thrown back. After everyone noticed this, they found a loophole and started pounding Mia's door. Mia opened her door and saw about 50 people gathered outside her house. Now, she didn't have Kai's spiritual sense, but she still had been in the sect for a longer time. Everyone standing outside her house can be considered as a genius, and most of them were dual cultivators. Well, according to sect standards, they can be considered as geniuses. However, if Kai was here, he would laugh at these guys being geniuses. Let me come inside and pleasure you. Let me take your purine flower. Warm my bed for me and I will help you advance in your cultivation. All of them tried to snatch Mia away from the others. Some threatened her whereas some flaunted their money. But all of them knew that Mia's cultivation was at the 1st stage of the sky spirit realm. Mia wanted to release her cultivation and sweep them away, but since she was tired after the journey, she decided to just tell them that she was no longer a virgin and had a man she fell in love with. Which was kind of the whole truth. I don't have my purine flower anymore. Kai already took it from me and I am in love with him. Now please leave and let me sleep, she said quickly. Mia's words shocked the crowd. Literally, everyone present here had seen Kai massacre the group of 9 people and all of them trembled at the mention of his name. Oh really? Then let's go and visit him. Suddenly, someone moved in the shadows and a person wearing jade-colored robes stepped forward. Everyone gasped when they saw him. He was Wu Tan, the #1 genius in the sect. Everyone thought that Kai wouldn't be able to beat Wu Tan and they followed him as he made his way towards Kai's home. Now Mia could have stopped them and acted as a good girl or something. However, you should always be what you want to be. Mia also followed them as she wanted to enjoy the massacre from a first-class seat. Chapter 17 Master of Everything, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What do you want? Kai opened his door and stared at the 50 or so gathered disciples. They were surprised to see that Kai already knew about them. However, Wu Tan seemed as though he had expected something like this. "I want to challenge you to a death match," Wu Tan said, and Kai glanced at his jade-colored robes. "And who are you?" Kai asked as he raised his eyebrows at Wu Tan. "Wu Tan, the sect's #1 genius," Wu Tan replied and puffed out his chest as others cheered. "And whatever. Let's just go," Kai said and walked away. Wu Tan and the others followed him while Mia snuck beside Kai. They didn't speak anything and just continued to walk. On their way to the entrance exam hall, they encountered the sect masters who were on around. When Riang and Junjun saw Kai roaming around with 50 guys, it was obvious to anyone that they were up to no good. "Where are you going, Wu Tan?" Riang addressed the person she believed was leading them all. "I challenged Kai here to a death match and he accepted it. We are on our way to the entrance exam hall," Wu Tan replied, and without waiting for a response, started moving. The sect masters wanted to stop him, but he was a valuable asset to the sect, so they didn't do anything. Furthermore, the Wu family had considerable influence in the Western continent. However, at first, Wu Tan was considered as nothing more than a pervert and was shipped off to the Blue Moon sect. The sect had given him a dual cultivation technique, and that was when they had found out that Wu Tan was an expert in dual cultivation. The Wu family once again welcomed him and paid the Blue Moon sect for making sure that he received the most beautiful ladies to cultivate. When the sect masters had heard about how Kai had healed Mia and they saw that Wu Tan wanted to have her, they were about to give her to him. However, before they could do anything, Wu Tan himself challenged Kai, who according to them, foolishly accepted it. In the end, they could only sigh and follow Kai and the rest of them towards the entrance exam hall. As for Kai, he started to talk with Mia. "How will you kill him? Will you kill him and resurrection again to kill him again?" Mia didn't worry about Kai as she knew that Wu Tan was far below his level. She was instead interested in how Kai would kill him. That was not resurrection. When a cultivator dies, his or her soul takes a few minutes before disappearing to a place. During this time, a high-level cultivator could think about whether to leave behind a part of his or her soul or not. Of course, you can do this while you lived, but still, this was another option. What I did was that I used their soul as a source and restored their body by taking it as a base. However, I can't guarantee that the one who is resurrected is the same person as before. Kai explained his theory and Mia took a few minutes to understand it all. Though he didn't tell her how he will kill him. All of them reached the entrance hall and Kai stepped forward. "I have to concoct some pills, so I will fight you all at once, as I know that you will keep coming at me again and again with new foolish strategies," Kai said, and snapped his fingers. Once again, a barrier appeared around him and Wu Tan and the other 50 disciples. They all thought that Kai was quite foolish since he decided to fight them all at once, but of course, Kai was anything but stupid. The sect masters, however, were taken back by this. Kai just said that he had to concoct some pills, which meant that he was an alchemy master. Furthermore, with a barrier like this, it could be safe to assume that he was a formations master. And since he healed those people, he was also a healer. What the hell? A healer plus alchemy master plus formations master. Is this guy the devil in disguise? As for Wu Tan, who had heard about this, was not surprised by this. Kai simply snapped his fingers and everyone except Wu Tan turned into ash, which made everyone watching gasp. As for Wu Tan, he laughed. "So your abilities are limited to the sky spirit realm. Unfortunately for you, I am in the hell spirit realm," Wu Tan said and took out a sword. "What a fool. You deliberately left you out so that I could make an example out of you." Kai gave an evil smile and took out a sword from his pendant. The sword was a peak-tier soul-grade weapon and Kai simply yawned as both he and Wu Tan took their position. Wu Tan charged towards him expecting to kill him in one quick slash, but instead, Kai cut his sword in half and stabbed him in his stomach. Wu Tan stumbled and fell back as he felt his insides bleeding. But they suddenly healed as though he never was injured. He looked up at Kai for some explanation, but his eyes suddenly started burning and he screamed in pain. "Who are you and why are my eyes burning?" he screamed as Kai chuckled evilly. "I am the master of everything. I can do anything you can imagine and I can also do things you can't imagine." Kai simply said with a shrug as though it didn't matter to him. He waved his sword and about 100 cuts appeared on Wu Tan's body. And yes, there were some cuts on his little brother too. Kai waved his sword once again and his head was severed. Kai snapped his fingers and Wu Tan's head once again reattached to his body. For the next few minutes, to everyone's horror except Mia, Kai continued to remove body parts from Wu Tan and kill him again and again. After Kai was satisfied, he simply snapped his fingers and Wu Tan turned to dust. "Remember my words. If anyone here tries to challenge me because of a stupid reason, then you will all follow the same fate as him and the others I have killed. And also, he certainly wouldn't be the last person I would kill before dying." Kai gave them all a warning and casually walked back to his house. From that day on, everyone in the sect knew about him. Kai, the terrifying master of all. As for the sect masters, they had a different thought about him. For them, Kai was the #1 genius who had joined the multipurpose sect. So in the end, the multipurpose sect had finally earned a multi-talented genius. Chapter 18 Healing of Beauty, Chapter Preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Everyone stared at Kai as he started walking towards the exit. However, some stupid fool still didn't get the message and suddenly took out a dagger and started running towards him. "Don't get ahead of yourself." The poor bastard shouted, but Kai didn't do anything and just kept walking. This was because he had seen Mia move towards him and he thought that this was a good chance for her to show her power to everyone. Mia released her first stage Hell Spirit Realm and shocked everyone even further. Their jaws, which were already dropped to the ground, were now down in hell. Mia took the dagger from the tip using her bare hands and broke it. She then used her hand to chop the guy on his neck and he fell unconscious, his body hitting the ground with a thud. Mia, how is your cultivation so high?" Riang asked in a frightened tone. Last she remembered, Mia was at the first stage of the Sky Spirit Realm and that was about a week ago. To reach the first stage of Hell Spirit Realm in about a week. That was beyond crazy. As for Kai, he simply teleported back to his room since he had already faced enough drama for one day. "I cultivated with Kai and he was kind enough to help me reach here. In fact, he did so much for me that you can't even imagine." Mia said, turned her back to them and stomped off in a cool-looking way. Everyone stood there with their mouths gaping open as they didn't know whether they should move or not. Mia went back to her room to sleep and Kai simply cultivated for the rest of the day. The next morning, Kai went back to his healing spot, which he had forgotten about. Nobody was there as everyone was now afraid of him, so he simply sat in a lotus pose and started cultivating. Even though he was cultivating, Kai's cultivation was only increasing by about 0.001% or something. But something is better than nothing. During mid-afternoon, a group of 7 ladies approached him. They all looked young and all of them could be considered as high-tier beauties. Since he was so focused on his cultivation, one of the girls had to shake him to wake him up. Kai opened his eyes and raised his eyebrows, which made the girl blush in embarrassment. "Big Sister Mia told us that you helped her with your cultivation and you can also heal any injuries," she suddenly said. The girl had waist-length long brown hair with shining hazel eyes. Yes, everything she said was true. "Now you might be wondering whether I could heal the poison that is obstructing your cultivation," Kai said in an amused tone, and the girl and her group suddenly gasped. "My name is Sawara Nezuko," she said. "Nice to meet you, Nezuko. Now I can easily heal your wound, but I think you already know that you might make some moaning noises." Nezuko nodded at Kai's words. "I already know about this and so, can you please heal me at your home?" Nezuko suddenly blushed. She had already cultivated with a few disciples in the inner court and she had a personal partner. But none of them were able to match Kai's handsome face or his dashing figure. Well, you sure can. Now I imagine that these ladies are going to follow you, so I might as well give them something. Everyone's face was full of confusion as Kai pointed towards them. What do you mean by giving something? Nezuko asked suspiciously. I will give them a massage. Everyone was dumbfounded at Kai's answer and stared at him. Do what you want. Either take it or leave it, he said as he returned back to his cultivation. In the upper realms, everyone wanted to have Kai's massage and many were ready to kill each other if it meant that they would receive it. He even had been nicknamed as the Divine Massage God, which was only one of his superior titles. I will not touch you inappropriately and I will only give you a massage. If you still don't believe me, then your loss. Kai opened his eyes and said to the group of girls. He gestured to Nezuko and the others to follow him. Everyone, including Nezuko, reluctantly followed Kai. Honestly, if someone asked them whether they would cultivate with Kai or not, they would say yes in a heartbeat. And that was not because of him raising their cultivation, though that can be considered as a bonus. In fact, Kai's handsomeness alone was enough to make them fall in love with him. All of them entered Kai's house and he led them to his bedroom. To tell the truth, all of these girls had already dual cultivated with some guys and lost their pure energy. If you want, then I can create an obstructing plus soundproof barrier around you which will prevent them from seeing or hearing anything. Kai sent a spiritual message to Nezuko, who formed big eyes and nodded. Kai snapped his fingers and a barrier appeared around him and Nezuko. As long as Kai was touching her, he could see and hear her. Kai's right hand started glowing and he touched her shoulder. The light passed from his hand to Nezuko's body and she gave a loud moan. Ah, but suddenly she coughed up a mouthful of foul black liquid that dropped on the floor. That is the poison, Kai said and snapped his fingers and the poison, along with the barrier, disappeared. Okay, now if you want, I will give a massage too. He smiled and Nezuko blushed. She slowly nodded as he gestured for her to lay down on the bed. Do you mind if they are watching? He asked Nezuko as he glanced at the others. If they see it, then they will know how it feels, she said and nodded at the others. If that's what you wish. Now you have 3 options on how you want me to massage you. First is with clothes, second is in your underwear and the third is naked. Nezuko's jaw dropped to the ground when she heard him. In case you were wondering, I am suggesting this so that your clothes don't get wet. Kai shrugged and answered as if what he was saying was quite obvious. Nezuko thought for a moment and blushed. She slowly opened her mouth and softly said, I will have the massage in my underwear. She covered her blushing face with her hands and let Kai remove her robes. Kai slowly removed her robes and left her in her red and black lace panties and bra. He then glanced at her blushing face before he proceeded to give her a massage. Chapter 19. Leaving after being satisfied but still feeling unsatisfied. Chapter preview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kai's hands slowly started glowing and he placed them on Nezuko's flat stomach and slowly started tapping on it like a pianist playing his piano. Nezuko felt the heat from Kai's hand pass through her body and she felt her little sister getting a bit tingly even though Kai was only tapping his fingers in her stomach. He slowly started kneading her stomach with expert moves and everyone saw the skin flow as if it was water. Nezuko let out a low moan which dumbfounded everyone. Kai had only started the massage a minute ago and Nezuko had already released her first moan. Everyone stared at him, who simply shrugged his shoulders in a I.told.you way. He slowly flipped Nezuko on her back and admired her snow-white naked back and large ass that on full display for him to watch. He grabbed a hold of them and started groping at them. Nezuko moaned loudly as Kai kneaded her ass with perfection. He let go of her ass and started rubbing her back. Everyone else was watching this with misty eyes as if the scene had made them enter a trance. Well, that's enough for her. I still have to make those pills and this is taking too much of my time. Even though Kai was happy to massage a beauty anytime, he still had to take care of his original beauties. Otherwise, if they knew that instead of finding and helping them regain their memories, Kai was goofing around with massaging some girls, they are gonna kick his ass. He once again flipped Nezuko and touched her stomach with his finger. Nezuko felt something hot rush towards her cave and she realized that she was about to come. But it was too late, Nezuko's body twitched and she released In-chi after In-chi. Her entire underwear was soaked and dripped liquid but she still didn't stop. After coming for who knows how much time, Nezuko's eyes rolled back and she fell unconscious. Maybe I overdid it. Kai thought and picked up Nezuko and laid her down near the foot of the bed. Her underwear was dripping so much In-chi that Kai had to cultivate it for 5 minutes so that it didn't go to waste. Her underwear now only contained simple arousal juice without any In energy in it, but it was still very much wet. Well, I asked her to do this naked but she didn't listen. Since I don't have that much time, I will massage 2 people at the same time. Kai's words broke everyone out of their trance-like state and 2 girls stepped forward. Kai quickly shook their robes loose, without asking, and pushed them down on the bed. Kai snapped his fingers and a tiny portal appeared near the girls' slits, but they were still wearing their underwear. Now I can absorb this energy all at once. Kai thought smartly. This portal would collect the In-chi released from their bodies and he would then cultivate it. He quickly started kneading their asses with his hands and made them moan. He then used his hands to rub their backs with tenderness. This continued for 5 minutes before Kai suddenly touched their stomachs with his fingers and made them come a large amount of In-chi. However, this time, the girls didn't get knocked out but they were still very weak. Kai picked them up in princess style and laid them down beside Nezuko. He then motioned for the next girls to come and he satisfied all of them in about 20 minutes and he successfully managed to gather a good amount of In-chi. See that can why that you cultivate with us? Nezuko, who was now awake, asked weakly. You have released enough In-chi that if you try to release any more of it, then you will hurt yourselves badly. I cannot do that, so you should rest. Come see me after a week of rest and I will gladly cultivate with you all. Kai offered to them. Nezuko and the other could only sigh and get up and wear their clothes. All of them slowly cleared out of Kai's house with a sad expression. If Kai could make them empty their supply of In-chi with just 5 minutes of massage, then what would he be able to do if he cultivated with them? They wanted to know this, but unfortunately, their stock was clean. Known to Kai, he had somehow created another catastrophe for himself. These girls were entranced by his skills and would never be satisfied by someone else's techniques. Kai simply sat in a lotus position and retrieved the large amount of In-chi which was now stored in a large crystal bowl. He then cultivated it for the next 1 hour and his cultivation advanced because of it. However, it would still take him some time before he would be able to break through to the 10th stage of the heaven spirit realm. Kai could cultivate with same girls again and again, but that will still take a large amount of time and he would also have to boost their cultivation. For now, Nezuko had 5th stage Sky Spirit Realm cultivation and the rest of them had cultivation that ranged from the 2nd stage Sky Spirit Realm to the 4th stage. But he would require Hell Spirit Realm cultivators after his breakthrough. Kai sighed dramatically and was about to go to an alchemy room to prepare the pills when suddenly, someone knocked at his door. He stood up and opened his door. There was man standing outside. He wore inner court robes and had an angry expression on his face. Nezuko refused to cultivate with me even though I am her partner, and that's because of you. Why? The man was about to say something else when Kai massaged his forehead and snapped his fingers. The man turned to dust and Kai closed the door. Little did he know, his bad day was just getting started. Author's note. I got 20 power stones and we hit 200 collections. Thank you guys, and I will release a second chapter for today. Chapter 20 Everyone Wants Kai, Chapter Preview, you are listening at novelfull.audio. As Kai was about to leave, another knock came at his door. He was now seriously pissed at those idiots who didn't get the message of not pissing him off. But when he looked outside, his mind immediately removed the thoughts of torturing some people. Outside Kai's house, a group of people were holding someone who had somehow managed to get his arms detached from his body. Now, only his shoulders were there and blood was flowing out from them, even though 2 bandages were tightly wrapped around them. "We heard you can heal anyone. Please heal my brother here. He was attacked by a herd of magical beasts and..." one of them said, and his voice trailed off halfway through the sentence. "I can only help you if you have his arms." Kai massaged his forehead as he already knew that they won't have it and he would have to regrow the man's arms and that would be painful. Another option was that he could create some regeneration pills, but the problem was that he didn't have the ingredients with him and he doubted the sect had those either. Believe it or not, some fool actually picked up those arms. He handed them to Kai, who gestured to lay down the patient on the floor. Kai looked at him for a few seconds before he looked at the patient on the ground. He removed the bandages as his hands started glowing and he took both of the cut-off arms and put them to the man's shoulders. Since he didn't want to hear another moan from a man, he simply knocked out the patient by hitting his neck. "It will hurt him a lot, so he is better off unconscious," Kai told the others who were looking at Kai suspiciously. The arms started to rejoin with the skin and merged together with it. But it was not over yet. Kai used 2 of his fingers to strike some pressure points on his body to regulate the flow of blood back to his arms. Thank you." The guy's elder brother woke up and thanked him and left with his group of friends. Kai went inside so he could just massage his forehead for a minute in peace. But no sooner had he entered his room, someone once again knocked at his door. He groaned loudly, but he still opened his door to see who was outside. It turned out that the sect masters were visiting him. "Now what do you guys want? Somebody's got injured and require my healing or something?" Kai asked in a voice that hinted that he wanted to move things quickly. "No. We were actually thinking about making you a core disciple. Would you consider it?" Riang didn't beat around the bush and asked the $1 million question. Except, Kai didn't see it as a $1 million question, as dollars don't exist in his world. Yeah. I will love to do it. Tomorrow," he said and closed the door on the sect master's face. "I should not behave in such a childish manner. Maybe I should try to control my emotions," he thought, and started taking deep breaths. As for the sect masters, they were angry that someone as young as Kai had done something like this to them. However, they didn't have much of a choice since he was a heaven-defying genius. Kai had enough of this and was about to teleport when someone once again knocked at his door. Now he was about to turn anyone who was outside to shreds, but when he saw that a beauty was standing alone outside his house, he stopped himself. Kai opened the door and asked, "Now, how may I help you? I heard from Nezuko and the others about your massaging skills. So, I was wondering whether you would give me a massage," she said seductively. The young beauty had beautiful green hair and light green eyes. "She's a slut." Kai had a slut sense which was giving him a high-level warning. But this was a sect that had dual cultivators, so this was expected. And if the girl in front of him was a slut, he didn't know what he was. If he had to be measured on a slut meter, he would be branded as the biggest slut in the history of sluts, as he had fucked many women. But he said nothing to the woman in front of him and gestured for her to enter. She quickly moved in and looked at him. "I prefer naked massage and you can touch my parts if you can please me," she said in a playful tone. Kai simply undid her robes and removed her underwear. He gazed at her perky breasts, firm ass, and a beautiful slit. He first started with her stomach and slowly kneaded it. She didn't moan but formed an expression full of pleasure. "My name is Yui," she somehow managed to say. Kai just nodded his head and moved towards her breasts. He fondled them with perfection which made Yui moan. Ah! He then kneaded them with care and suddenly pinched her erect tips which made Yui release her loudest moan. He released her breasts from his grip and his fingers slowly traveled to Yui's pink flower and slowly rubbed it. Yui continued to moan as Kai rubbed her slit. He suddenly pinched her clit which made Yui come on the spot. But that didn't make him stop. He inserted one of his fingers inside Yui's cave and started rubbing her insides. Yui continued to moan and Kai inserted a second finger inside. He used his other hand to fondle her breasts while he was finger-fucking her with his right hand. After some time, Kai thought that it was enough and he touched her stomach with his finger. Yui's body twitched and she released yin chi after yin chi. He had created a portal beforehand to collect all of her yin chi. Rest for a week and I will cultivate with you the next week, if that's something that you want. Kai said. No, not at all. In fact, I loved it. I will see you next week. Yui cheerfully said and wore her clothes. She suddenly gave Kai a light peck on his cheek and left his house. After she left the house, another knock came at his door. He wanted to turn the person outside to dust but he just sighed and opened the door. Kiana was standing outside with an amused expression and she looked as though she heard everything that was happening inside the room. Maybe this won't be too bad.